Hi there, Tad Hargrave from Marketing for Hippies, and today's video is about that it's hard to say no. This is just a thing about being human. Humans have a very difficult time saying no to other humans. When I was in Toronto at the Toronto Storyteller Festival just a few weeks ago, there was a fellow, Ron Evans, who's a Chippewa Cree Métis fellow, and he grew up, I suppose, in one of the last generations to really be nomadic, traveling around the prairies, and their sense of property was very different. If there was a rifle, they wouldn't necessarily even ask each other, "Can I use this?" The closest they'd get was they say, "Hey, are you using this today?" And if not, it was just understood that one could use these things. There was things were shared much more, and it makes me think about in Gaelic, one of my ancestral languages. The sense of possession is also very different. I might say molav, my hand, but I wouldn't say my pen. I'd say han piaun acham, han kota acham, san kota lumsa. This is the coat that's at me or with me. So it's a prepositional, positional relationship of closeness, but not ownership. So I might say my wife, my children, my hand, my hair, but I wouldn't say that for many other things. And so anyways, all that to say, I think for a lot of cultures there was much more of a communal sense of ownership, and one wouldn't ask directly often because it puts people in this difficult position of saying no, and so it's just understood. It's hard because we want to help other people. So this is built in, of course, for some people, depending on how we're raised, and various dynamics that can happen growing up and ancestrally. It can be almost impossible because we're so people-pleasing. We want to, there's this great book just right in front of me here, Gabor Mate, When the Body Says No. So basically that sometimes actually people have such a hard time saying no in a way that's not healthy. This is not a culturally endorsed we all share kind of way, but it's an overgiving. It's a collapse that I speak a lot about, this collapsing and posturing. And so when people are collapsing, they can overgive. They can do it to the detriment of their body and wear themselves out, as many of you may have personally experienced. Okay, so why the hell am I talking about this? If we understand this, that culturally, probably ancestrally for all of our families, saying no was a difficult thing, and because of the shared nature of things. And second, that people sometimes are raised with no sense of boundaries, with a sense that they're not worth anything unless they're giving and giving and giving. If we understand that, the setup is that when you make an offer to somebody in a business sense, their capacity to look you in the eye and say no is, we just have to understand, it's diminished. It's practically not there. It is non-existent. There are people who would sign up for a $10,000 program just because they don't want to disappoint you. Truly. You throw then a few dynamics in there around your speaking from the front of the room, and you have this authority status. Maybe you've been very generous. Maybe you love bomb the people in the room and you tell them how special they are, and you smile at them and you wink at them, and you build this sense of relationship and kinship that is constructed, not organic. But still, you understand how overwhelming this could be. So when you combine all these manipulative marketing tactics, especially that are used in these live events, all these tactics, and you add to that the difficulty people have of saying no, and then you add to that desperation, that people are in a place of really needing the money, or whatever it is you're selling. They're lonely and they just want to find their soulmate. They're sick and they want to be healthy. They're so stressed, they just want to be at peace. Whatever it is that they're craving and yearning for, I've never done this Venn diagram. I'm just constructing this on the fly here, but their desperation combined with the difficulty humans have saying no, combined with manipulative marketing chicanery, means people often say yes when it's not good for them. So here's what I'm suggesting. If people show up to you desperate, number one. And you know that as a human being in modern culture, and some human beings more than other, I would say often women maybe have a harder time saying no than men in certain things, though not all. But if we understand there's a certain proneness to say yes, to please, if we understand there's a certain vulnerability there, then what does that ask of us? This is the question. What does it ask of us who are marketing? Because what you'll hear from a lot of the marketing people is, well, that's their responsibility. My responsibility is just to make the offer. It's their responsibility to manage themselves. And now this is true, but also not true. Of course, it's 100% their responsibility. It's their life. They've got to, these are their choices. But I also want to submit it's 100% our responsibility to make sure that we construct things in such a way that they would feel good after the sale, after they buy it. They still feel wonderful. They still feel good, if that makes sense, That's our responsibility. Now, if everyone who's signing up with you for your programs always feels good after, this conversation is not for you. But if there is buyer's remorse and regret and bad word of mouth and people being hurt, then this is for you. And of course, this is very true. I'm just sad to say it. So many of my colleagues, this is true for. There's people are showing up desperate with a hard time saying no. Instead of contending with that respectfully and just saying, look, we're not going to try to get you to say yes because we know it's hard for you to say no. So yes, we're going to give a good deal and be very clear about who it's for, but we also want to be clear who it's not for. We want to give you the space. We want to respect your autonomy and sovereignty, and hey, there's no pressure here. I mean, sometimes there is a natural scarcity. There's only so many spots in a program, but where you try to soothe the desperation, and you respect their capacity to say no, and in fact, you embolden it. You slow down. You stop them. Are you sure? It's okay if you say no. There's really no hard feelings. You're not a failure to say no to this offer. It doesn't make you a bad person to say no. You're not morally offending me. I have to talk about this whenever I do the Pay What You Can workshops. One second. Whenever I do the Pay What You Can workshops, I know people are going to feel guilty for not paying enough. Some people in the room are sitting there thinking, I can give $20 and I don't want to offend Tad. So you understand there's a vulnerability there. Yeah. It's connected to the not wanting to say no. What they want to say yes to giving me more money, and by giving me less, they're sort of saying no to me at a certain level. And so I know that they're vulnerable. What I could do in that moment is, and I heard about this from some colleagues, dear people, and I was shocked to hear that they'd done this. It was a Pay What You Can workshop, and at the end they said, we're talking about abundance this whole time, and it's Pay What You Can, so whatever amount you're thinking, we invite you to stretch and give a little more. Here's what I'm saying. They're already overstretching themselves. Yeah, they're already probably thinking about giving more than is appropriate for them because they're overgiving, because this is a very common dynamic. I mean, it's not everyone, but if I had to bet money, that's where I'd bet it. They're already overgiving. So what I have to say is, hey, whatever you give, it's okay. This is not a personal assessment of me. If you say, I can't give what I think you're worth, Ted, your money has no reflection on what I'm worth. I can't give, well, then what the workshop's worth. Well, what you pay has no reflection on what the workshop is worth. Of course, that goes into the consideration of what you would pay, but I know it's a good workshop. I'm solid. I've gotten the feedback. I know it's a good workshop, and I know when I do it, if I screw it up, I know if it's not good. But it's just, I don't take the payment as, it's like, if you want to give me feedback, you want to tell me something was not good, let me know. I'll take that in consideration as feedback about the workshop. But what you pay, that's just some mix of what you thought it was worth for you and what and what you can afford. That's all. That's literally all it's saying. But you could, of course, people very vulnerable, and you could push it and say, you just received a lot, and don't you think you should give back? And you make people feel guilty for it. People are vulnerable. I guess this is what I'm trying to say. And I did another video about the predator and protector. Maybe I'll put a link to that. It's worth considering too. And we have all done this. I'm not pointing fingers at my colleagues. I'm not pointing fingers at you or me. I'm just doing this. Here we are as human beings, and one of the things that we do that's beautiful is we protect each other's vulnerabilities and take care of each other so that we're not taken advantage of. And one of the ugliest things that we do is we take advantage of each other's vulnerabilities. We do this politically, sexually, romantically, financially, with our friends. It's all over. And when people are showing up desperate in the throes of whatever hardship or maelstrom in their life they're contending with, and they show up with the cultural conditioning of having a difficult time saying no, if we don't meet them respectfully in that place, the default is this taking advantage. If we leave all the responsibility, they're drowning, you understand? These people are drowning. And this is the moment we're going to say, well, no, it's really their responsibility. It's all them. It's all on them. It's not all on them. Am I not my brother's keeper? Yes, of course they're responsible, and of course there are lessons for them, but that doesn't mean you need to be a dick about it. It's one of the most beautiful things in the world that I see is when I see somebody in a vulnerable place going for help in a moment where they could be easily taken advantage of, and the person helping doesn't take advantage. There's an easy opening and they don't take it. It's the most beautiful thing to watch. And that's where trust is deepened. This is where the trust really appears. Because if somebody comes to you, right, and they're desperate and they have a hard time saying no, and you could get $20,000 from them to sign up for this program, but you realize it's not a fit, you realize it's not a good time for them, you realize they're probably going to regret it, you realize you suspect financially it's not a good decision for them in this moment, even though their finances are their business, of course, and as one of my colleagues says, you don't want me in your bank account, you're looking at your finances. That's true, but let's just say you have this hunch. I don't know if this is really the best thing for you. That you at least have the conversation with them. You at least say, can we pause for a second? I hear that you want to sign up and that you think this could be helpful. I think it might be. I have some concerns. I just don't know, and I want to slow down this whole freight train that we're on just to see. If you're willing to pause, if you're willing to take that moment to reflect, yeah? And let's say they don't buy. Now you could say, oh, well, I'm out the money and I didn't get the sale, and so thanks, Tad, thanks, hippie, for your terrible advice. But here's what happens. Their trust in you just goes through the roof. And what do you think they tell everyone? Yeah, I went to this seminar and there was this $20,000 program, and it seemed like a really good idea. And I talked to one of the coaches and we really sat with it and realized it's not the right time for me. Maybe in a few years, but not right now. And boy, I would have signed up. I would have given them all the money, and it wouldn't have been a good idea. It wouldn't have been the right timing. We just had a baby, or we're just about to move to another country, and we realized it was going to fall through the cracks. And wow, I trust them so much more now. So much more, versus if you take advantage of it. And then it's the refunds. Or some people won't even ask for a refund on all the money they paid because they feel so, it's the same conditioning. The difficulty saying no is tied to this difficulty with confrontations and boundaries. But they'll hate you. They won't respect you for the rest of their days. So anyways, God, this video is much longer than I thought it would be. So let's just reconsider that Venn diagram. People are desperate. Often. They have a hard time saying no and setting boundaries. And then there's our marketing. So these two circles are a given. The question is, how do you fill in this circle? That's all I have to say. Thank you everyone so much for stopping by and sticking around for this immensely long video. I really do welcome your thoughts and comments below. I hope you're doing well. I hope life is going good for you. I hope business is going well. And feel free to check out all the free things. You know, if you go to marketingforhippies.com/free or nichingspiral.com/free, there's a ton of free stuff there for you. And I hope I might see you in one of my workshops, maybe do a puttering session with you. Yeah. Okay, that's really it. Thanks, everyone.